Live from the Icebox Studio in Montgomeryville, Pennsylvania, it's the Bill and Corey Show.
I'm Bill.
And I'm Corey.
Welcome back to another live edition of the Bill and Corey Show. This is live edition number 98.
Oh, wow.
We're getting up there. This is one topic, so we're going to talk about...
Brand new. We haven't talked... No.
We've talked about this a lot.
All right.
But this is the definitive... Hopefully we answer every single question you got on this.
As definitive as one can get in less than 30 minutes.
Yes. So strap in. The question of the day is, when do you need a dual stage regulator? Mm-hmm. Well, to start out with this, we're going to have Corey.
If somebody comes up and hits you with the gauntlet, and you got to duel them.
Yeah, just no. That's
No?
not it. Okay, so Corey's going to explain the dual stage regulator.
All right, here we go. We want to bring up the first slide.
First graphic?
First graphic, please.
There we go.
So this isn't a dual stage regulator, but in order to understand a dual stage regulator, we got to start with a single stage regulator. And as you can see, it's pretty, an inlet goes up to the diaphragm, the diaphragm's set so that it lets a certain amount of pressure through, goes out the outlet, bada bing, bada boom, regulator. Now, in order to get a dual stage regulator, it's as simple as just adding another regulator, right? So next slide, please.
Magic.
Boom, magic. So all I did was, you take the other regulator. You don't want the other knob at the bottom there. That would just make the regulator bigger. You don't need two inlets and outlets, so you got to get rid of those. So you only want one. And then it becomes magically, I crossed it out and put dual above there just to point out that it's now a dual stage regulator.
Fancy graphics.
Can you put up the next slide? And once you take away all those red areas and you squeeze it together, you get that. You got the two springs, only got one inlet, one outlet, and they match up straight across instead of, one being up and down, so that's nice. And then you don't even have to, like the first stage, obviously, you're not going to adjust that. That's not the delivery pressure, so you don't need the knob there. And so what happens is it comes into the first stage, and it'll bring it down to a pressure higher than what your highest delivery pressure would be. And then it goes so that the next spring doesn't have to adjust it as much anymore. And we'll get into the mechanics of that. The second stage doesn't have to adjust it as much, so it's a finer pressure coming out, in essence. So I think, Bill,
if we can notice something on here.
No worries.
The graphic we got this from, they call it an inner stage. It's really the interstage
Oh.
because it's between. Yeah, it's the pressure between the two stages.
Not like inner space when you go in the veins.
Okay, so that's kind of it.
Yeah.
So turn the graphic off.
Well, we did it.
So yeah,
We did it. All right,
everybody go home. No. Okay, so why?
So then why? Yeah.
So you got something called supply pressure effect, and that is when with a single stage regulator, you're hooking it up to a cylinder on this side. And what happens is, this is with forces balancing out, is let's say you got a cylinder, 2,400 PSI. When the cylinder goes towards empty, when the inlet pressure decreases, the outlet pressure will increase a little bit.
Because the force gets weaker.
Well, mitochondria or something. So it's a balancing of forces, and that's what's happened. So we've got our top video that we have on our YouTube is dual stage versus single stage.
Oh, is that the top one? I assumed it would be the cleverly named regulators for regular people.
No, this passed it.
Wow.
And this shows that with a single stage regulator, it will go, and I have it set at 10 psi, so you can really see the effect on the gauge.
Yeah.
And that it shows the cylinder gauge going down and the supply gauge going up. And the dual stage, because the energy dead nuts flat. So if you want consistent, pressure throughout the life of a cylinder, you want a dual stage. So
if you like pressure ranges, you like to feel less pressure some day, more pressure the other day.
I mean, that's why you have the dual stage, because the inner stage kind of absorbs that supply pressure effect.
And what is the supply pressure effect?
We talked about that. We just talked about
No, but you didn't really explain it as it goes. We did explain the force, but I guess what I'm getting at is, what is the rule? I guess the rule of thumb is going what?
Oh, I'm sorry. It is. So rule of thumb is 1 psi per 100. So for every 100 psi, your cylinder goes down, delivery pressure will go up about 1 psi. It could be half, it could be 2, but if you're just kind of trying to figure out your calculations, so you go 2,000 psi down in a cylinder, you're going to go up about 20 psi in delivery pressure.
Theoretically.
Theoretically. So, and so the interstage, we talked about the interstage absorbs the, and typically for it to show up that's our dual stage regulator.
You see how it's got the bigger butt?
Yeah. So this has an interstage pressure about 350 psi-ish. And most regulators will have something in that.
But what if I need a 500 delivery pressure, Bill?
Oh, if you have a 500 psi delivery pressure in a dual stage regulator, it's going to have a higher interstage.
Yeah, you can't. The interstage pressure will always be higher than the delivery pressure.
And part of that's designed for pressure and flow requirements and stuff.
It's not something you can really change on the fly.
So you want to, let's see if we can do this. You want to show the
video? We're going to do something
video. Ooh. No, this is showing your interstage pressure.
The Bill and Corey Show
oh, I don't know
logo.
It's not. It's not moving. Okay. Anyways, this is what this is supposed to show. Oh, it's about to start.
Oh, there we go. There it is.
Your interstate with the cylinder pressure going down. You see that interstage is going up
to 400.
Just a little bit. It started at like 370, and it'll go up to.
Yeah, it's about
a little about 380.
Going up.
So it only went up about 10 psi-ish.
Yeah. So
and this started out, the cylinder was only at 1500 when we had it on. And then it starts to plummet. That's because
there's no pressure.
The cylinder pressure is below the interstage pressure. So you see that kind of plummeting. And then eventually you get to a point that the delivery pressure will collapse because there's not enough force and stuff like that. And you're down to nothing.
Yeah,
anyway, so,
you can't. Yeah.
So I'd say.
Squeezing juice from a dry fruit. I don't know. What's that saying?
You want to take the graphic off and then So yeah, we talked about the 1 psi per 100.
Oh, I just jumped the gun on that one.
And it's really how sensitive is your application.
Yeah. Does it feelings wise? Like, is it? I mean, if you say something.
So I mean, part of it is if you don't have a problem changing the pressure when the cylinder goes down. I don't know what you're using.
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess one of the things I want to add is that sometimes we get questions of like, do I want a dual stage regulator? And my answer is I don't know if you want a dual stage regulator because how sensitive. Like, do you need one? Depends on what you need.
Yeah, some instrumentation you have, the pressure changing is going to screw you up.
Or you're in a lab where you have it coming from a cylinder and you go to a station where it has a second regulator already there, and then it takes care of that anyways.
So one of the big questions is, when do you not really need one?
When do you not?
What kind of gases you don't need?
There's certain times when we're like, nah, that doesn't need it.
So we're talking on dewars and liquefied gases. You want to, so dewars, your liquid dewars are 230 psi or 350 psi, and they're below the interstage pressure. So you want to pop up the graphic. So here's some, it didn't come up good, it's supposed to be gray. So there's some liquefied gases, like sulfur dioxide. All these gases are below the interstage pressure. So so there's a couple things going on. If the pressure decreases, the interstage isn't doing anything because it's at 350 and this is at 250.
I mean,
so it's
it'll still work. It'll still work.
Yeah, but
the second stage. The second stage will
it won't.
It'll work as a single stage regulator.
Yeah,
it works as it's a single stage regulator at that point.
So your dual stage
that's
regulator
all it is,
is really single stage.
Then you're not using a dual stage regulator.
This is all the vapor pressure.
Yeah, that's all. That's what happens.
The other thing being, liquefied gases. Most of your gas is going to let's just take propane, 110 psi vapor pressure, room temperature. It's going to be it's liquid in the cylinder, and that pressure is going to be 110 until you're liquid empty, and then you're sucking vapor, and there's not that much left in the cylinder after you're done with the liquid. The pressure will drop relatively quickly. So you can see with all those, interstage is not going to help you at all on these, like dewars or which are at pressures below interstage,
Yes.
and this. Okay, now you want to put up next one's a video. This is a cylinder on a Dewar, and it's like 340-ish PSI. And this is a single stage regulator. And if you look, that delivery pressure is not doing anything until it gets too low. So that delivery pressure was really stable, just what you'd expect from a dual stage. You could actually get a little bit of rise, maybe, but it's really not that much. You might get 1 or 2 psi on different kind of things, but basically it's
pretty steady. It's steady.
pretty steady.
Yeah.
From 350. Okay, you want to go back to just CNS?
I mean, if they want to.
Yeah, so it shows you that how a single stage operates from 350 below, and it's not going to change much at all.
No. So you're buying something you don't need.
Well, your dual stage isn't going to be working
No.
well at that pressure anyways.
No. I mean, yeah. So, I mean, we'll get to it because right now we're talking about like right at or below the interstage pressure. But Bill, what happens if you're not that far above it?
Okay, that's kind of the big tricky things. You've got
Feels like an infomercial when I ask a question like that.
We have nothing else new to sell you. So there are 2 common gases that are liquefied that have a vapor pressure above 350 psi is carbon dioxide and nitrous oxide.
The oxide twins.
The oxide twins, yeah. And they're commonly, they're big cylinders, and it's sold by weight. So you want to pop up the next graphic? Okay, so this shows the liquefied gases, nitrous and carbon dioxide. Tells you the vapor pressure. That's at room temperature. So they're up there, 745 and 830. And they hold a 1A cylinder. That's our kind of our biggest cylinder for that. So you got 60 pounds in there. So you're looking at 494 cubic feet for nitrous and 524 cubic feet for CO2. So that's a lot. If you have like a cylinder of nitrogen, a full fill it to 2640, you're only going to get like 300 cubic feet. So you can stick a lot of cubic feet when you liquefy.
Well, typically when you can liquefy things, it just.
Now, big question is, okay, so this is the usable content used at liquid empty. So when the cylinder goes liquid empty, let's say the CO2 cylinder goes liquid empty. So it's 830 psi, you drain all the liquid off of it, and now it's going to suck the vapor. When it goes liquid empty, you have used 87% of the gas in that cylinder.
Or 89 if it's
89 for
nitrous. So I mean, it depends, but it's roughly similar.
And what we assume is, look at the left edge, assuming that below 200 psi is typically not usable due to flow pressure requirements. Because you get down to 200 psi, typically you will have around 100 psi
You just have to pick up a cutoff just to make it all the same.
Yeah, so it's
essentially.
usually below that. You might have problems with the flow and things like that. So you say, oh yeah, what about my nitrogen cylinder? If you get a nitrogen cylinder that's your big cylinder, it's plus rated, so you can fill it to 2640 psi. You're going to use 92% of its contents when you go from 2640 down to 200. So it's really not that much different for usability. So if you're looking at just straight usability, a single stage will be fine for carbon dioxide if you don't mind cutting it off at 830 psi. And that might be a good way to tell you that it's time to get a new cylinder. If it starts to drop down to 600-700 psi, you go, hey, the cylinder's empty. But if you're draining that CO2 or nitrous cylinder all the way down to like 200 psi, yes, you do want a single stage. I'm sorry,
you want a dual stage regulator.
You want a dual stage regulator because you're going to get a little bit of supply pressure effect in there. So it's going to go up a few psi, and that might mess up your process. So you can take off the graphic.
I was thinking about, you might met 2 psi, but I was thinking, like, as a human, imagine if they just added 5 psi to our atmosphere right now.
That would be a lot different.
I know, but that'd be crazy. So if you have a process and
Yeah.
it could change things. It doesn't take that much if you put it in.
Yeah,
If you think about it in that way.
Well, some
process,
and we're not on the instrument end of things.
No, we're not on. Yeah.
There's some instruments that are very sensitive, and you can't have that little PSI blip and
Calibrations
it kind of
as well.
messes things
Gases,
up and stuff like that.
You
So,
want pressure. Yeah, there's a lot of things that it's important to get the pressure.
yeah. Now, if you get something like a dewar, a big dewar of a regular sized dewar of nitrogen, you have 4,000 cubic feet in that sucker.
It's like a gymnasium.
That's pretty good. Yep. Oh, there's other. Oh, I didn't pull one out. We have one here too. Now there's other. There's.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
You want to talk about three?
Well, I'm thinking,
Oh, there's a couple other things to talk about. One is,
I mean, just like razor blades. If one blade is good, two blades are good, three blades. So a triple stage regulator, guys.
okay. So
Come
this
on.
So this is what's going to happen in your regulator, is your dual stage regulator. Yes, it's going to be 1 psi per 100. So let's say it's like 1%. So
it's ratios.
This will
The
actually
power of ratios.
With the dual stage. So you have that. We saw that 350-ish interstage. That will go up. We saw that go up a little bit. So if that goes up, the delivery pressure is going to go down a little bit. You can't see it on the gauge. But if you had a real sensitive setup, or you're at a real low pressure, let's say you're around, you have to be inches of water column.
Yeah. Well, you said you had there's an example of this
for
for
transformers.
transformers. Optimus Prime.
So if you have
very
a low delivery pressure, and you need like 1 psi or below, you could have that little bit of pressure increase when your cylinder's going empty. And in some applications, you'd need a 3-stage regulator, and what that would do is dampen it out, because it's really, and it would be 1% of 1%, really. So you get a,
it's just as simple as
So every 1 psi rise here would be 100th of a percent. No, yeah, when this goes up 1 psi, this would go down 100th of a psi.
Yeah. So if you have a process from a very large pressure that you need a very small pressure, 2,000 psi to 200 is the same ratio as 200 to is to 2.
Yeah.
So you'll have the same supply pressure effect percentage-wise from 2,000 to 200.
But there's not a lot of.
But percentage-wise, you would.
So for real sensitive applications.
Yeah.
You'd have that.
But so that's what all that's saying.
Yeah. We also have what's quite popular. We just had an order for one today. We have. I still don't understand it. So it must be very sensitive. We've got a dual stage regulator for ammonia, and ammonia is 114 psi.
Yes.
And so it's going to be 114 till you're going liquid empty. But we had one customer. It was very important, and it's a special regulator. It's interstage set at 60. Delivery pressure is max 30.
Yeah.
So it works. So I guess it's super sensitive with the ammonia. They want to dampen out any effects on that, and it'll help dampen out like temperature effects and things like that, having it at 60. So those are kind of little odd.
Yeah, and it all depends on your setup, because you could do a sort of 3-stage regulator by having a dual stage, and then at point of use you have a 3rd regulator stage, and that would would have the same thing.
You want to pop up the last slide? That would be the more information slide.
There we go.
Yeah, so we got this. We got a dual stage versus single stage video, pressure regulators for regular people video, just because it's.
And
popular.
the regulator selection guide, the one that's listed, that one is the one that I feel like is
That's
the one.
got everything in it.
That's the most helpful one if you're going to do something.
It's not going to help you do. Yeah.
Well, no, but I mean, we were talking about vapor pressures.
Yeah.
You can find vapor pressures of gases there if you click on the gas information. So
Okay.
it's got all
You
kinds
can
of
take
stuff.
for more information off.
Yeah.
So so next week, our topic is mounting. So just like last week was purging, we're going to go to mounting.
I'm going to have a real Canadian Mountie as a guest.
We're not going to have little Mountie hats or anything like that. So
you
next
say
week,
that.
Oh boy. Tune in, you don't know. Maybe we'll have Mounties here. Part of the Border Patrol coming down.
No.
Okay. So tune in again next week for another live edition of the Bill and Corey Show.
Set your VCRs.